This is part 2 of the webinar for entering and printing stock labels. Where we left off, we were on the Enter Stock Labels screen and we clicked on Save and Print Labels. That brought us directly to the Print Stock Labels screen, so it saved us a step. There's basically two ways to get to the Print Stock Labels screen. Either through when you're on the Enter Stock Labels, when you click on the Save and Print button, that'll bring you directly to it. Or if you're just at the regular RIX menu, I'll show you how to get to that in a minute. So here at the top we have your printer selection. Once you've gone in for the first time and set this, you won't have to set it each time you're in this screen. You'll see the printer where the printer is going, and to the right you'll see the printing format text box. You'll see the printer type. There's the laser inkjet, or there's the Zebra or Datamax printer. We're going to do it on the laser inkjet. And there's the label template based on whatever printer type you have. And I'm going to do the Avery 5160. There's also the check boxes where you can show all labels, print date if you want the date printed backwards, print store name if you want your store name printed, and print UPC if you want the UPC number printed on the label. Price to print, you have an option of using the active selling price or no price. And show all labels, that would be if you have SKUs in your system that are coded to not to print labels, then those would show up here if you have this checked. I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that because I just want to look at the items that are coded to print labels. What this show all labels basically lets you do, if you have a SKU that is coded to never print labels, but you need to print a label for it for some reason, maybe the manufacturer barcode is messed up to where you can't scan it and you want to print a RIX barcode label, we could go into Enter Stock Labels and put that item in to print a label. It would still tell us that it was coded as no labels, but it would allow us to still print that. That way we could, when we go into Print Stock Labels, we could click on this, and even though it was coded to no labels, it would still show up down here and we could print it if we needed to. So now I have the list of all my labels. If I have multiple users that enter labels in my system, I'll probably want to sort this and put in my user. If I want to make this window bigger, I can do that. So I see all my other users here to the right, so I can just pull up my user and click on the lookup button, and that'll bring up just the items that I have put in. Now if I click on check, uncheck all, that'll check all of the items that I have entered into print labels. And if I wanted to print everything, all I'd have to do is click on the print labels button down at the bottom. I could also do a combination lookup if I wanted to do my user and just a particular supplier. I could put that supplier in here in my user and click on lookup, and that would just bring up, if I chose New Balance, it would only bring up New Balance under my user. So many different ways that you can narrow down what you want to print. I can resort these as well down here. Anything that you see a line underneath, you can click on it, resort it. So you can do it by entered on, quantity, SKU, description, supplier code, column, row, color, location, on hand, or entered by. And that'll resort those for you if you need to. Works a lot like the Enter Stock Labels screen does. You can also delete selected labels. So anything that's checked, I could click on Delete Selected Labels, the button, and it would delete everything. It would come up and say, are you sure you want to delete them? Or you can just remove certain ones. If I want to click on certain checkboxes, it will not delete those items that are not checked. And you'll see also here you'll have the selected label count. So that looks at anything that's checked, and that tells you how many labels are actually going to either be deleted if you click on deleted selected labels, or how many labels would actually print if you clicked on print labels. The other way to get into the Print Stock Labels screen, if you weren't getting there directly from the Enter Stock Labels, is just by going to Inventory, Labels, and Print Stock Labels. Maybe I had entered my stock labels and I had to leave the computer for a little bit, so I couldn't use that option of entering my labels and printing them at the same time. So then when I was done doing whatever I needed to do, then I was ready to come back and print those labels. So then that way you can still get to that screen by inventory, labels, and print stock labels. This will bring you into the same exact screen, and then you can pull up your labels how you need to. By user, if you have multiple users that are printing out labels, and it brings up all of those labels, and you can do the check uncheck, and then if you're ready to print, you can click on print. I'm going to click on the print labels button. And now when they're done printing, you'll see that there's nothing for my user anymore. So once you enter stock labels in and print them out, it's not going to keep them in here, so you don't have to risk accidentally printing them again. But there's also situations where maybe your printer gets jammed up or you need to reprint a certain set of labels. Here is the beauty about that. Up at the top where you see the printer selection box, there is a print set. We keep all of the sets of labels that you print. So now you see that set of labels that I just printed. It was on today's date. It'll show the time. It'll show how many labels and what type of labels they were. And it will list that. If you click on the drop down, it will list all of the different batches that you've printed. So if for some reason you need to reprint a batch, you can come to this, click on the drop down, choose it, and print those labels. So I'm going to pretend like that happened. I'm going to go ahead and select this, and I'm going to click on Restore Labels. And now you can see my labels are back. And then I can just simply click on Print Labels because everything's checked. And that'll print that batch again for you. So that will save you a lot of time if something happens to where you need to reprint a particular batch. We've made it really easy to just go ahead and select different batches of labels and just be able to reprint those if you need to. So you just select it, click on Restore Labels, and Print Labels. There's also this Reprint Labels button. So if I click on that, that just simply reprints those last labels. So the times that you would be in print stock labels would be from part 1 when we talked about entering stock labels. And entering stock labels would just be if you already have inventory on hand and you just simply need a label for it. So you'd go to the enter stock labels, enter what you need, and you could either print them from there or you could come and print from the menu and print those stock labels. Or if you're receiving product, whether it's receiving off of a PO or receiving without a PO. Once you receive that, it puts it into your inventory and it automatically stores labels. So all you have to do is go through the print stock labels to print those out. The receiving with PO and the receiving without PO screens also have the button. Once you receive it, you can receive and print labels just by clicking on that button. That'll receive them and it'll bring you directly to this print stock labels. So we've made it really easy to either enter stock labels and print labels or receive merchandise and print labels. So that is the end of part 2 for printing stock labels. And this webinar will always be available on your Rick's Enterprise menu in the training video library. You will find it in the webinar section of entering and printing stock labels.